This is your weekly trip to paradise, Louisiana style, with Gary Risponi and Don Dubuque. Paradise, Louisiana is presented by Farm Bureau Insurance, Demco, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative, Pods, Moving and Storage, solved. Baton Rouge Coca-Cola Bottling Company, Benny's Car Wash and Oil Change, Louisiana Fish Fry Products, and by CCA Louisiana and the CCA Louisiana Star Tournament.
Welcome back to another edition of Paradise, Louisiana, and welcome back Superior Bait and Tackle on Seagull Lane, and I'm Gary Risponi, and that looks like Don Dubuque still over here.
Still looks like me, huh?
It looks just like you. Don, I know you've been real busy. Our duck season left us this past weekend for the ducks. We got one more youth hunt in the East Zone, would be this coming Saturday. Still got geese. I hear there's a geese showing up everywhere. There's a lot of geese being killed. We got an invitation from Jay Thomas to go out there in the Southwest and hunt some speckled bellies up to the 11th. So I made a East duck hunt, place they've been killing a lot of mallards. Beautiful, not a float blind, but a tall blind. A tree blind, they call it, with trees all around it, Spanish moss, warm, cooked inside. Only one trouble. They shot at a couple flights of mallards that weren't even close. They shouldn't even shot, but we didn't kill a duck.
It happens sometimes.
Especially with me lately. So I didn't get to finish in the coastal zone because of no water, and then this one, beautiful day, don't know what it is. So. Don, we got a lot of news today. We got one tragedy happened. More and more we hear what's happening. This one, I don't know how it could be avoided. So it's very sad. They were very close to me, all in one family. 3 out of 4 of them drowned. A blind turned over, a floating blind, a pontoon blind. So talk about that later. In the show, we talk about safety. The rest of it, we got a lot of news and a lot of fishing report. Now, what did you have, Don? I know you.
Well, I made a trip down to Delacroix Island last week, and it was one of the quickest trips we've ever made. A real quick limit of redfish. Redfish are everywhere. We'll talk more about that in the fishing report. News items coming out. There's going to be a big change proposed by Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries on licensing fees. It hasn't been released yet, but just be aware, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, we've got this group of chefs in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Lafayette area that are opposed to the red snapper legislation that's going forward. Actually, a fisheries management legislation by Garrett Graves, and they're kind of fighting it. They don't like the idea of it, and a lot of recreational fishermen don't like the idea. The chefs don't like it. So we'll talk a little bit about that.
Our former Governor Foster also sent a little letter out, and what he says, we're talking more about it in the news, but what he says that they hollered gloom and doom years ago about the nets. They proved them wrong. They said now they come in here and they're trying to bring up something that just ain't gonna happen. The ones I deal with, I ain't seen one of them on the list. So that's just more stuff to talk about in the news. So.
Plus our Berkeley Abu Garcia fishing report coming your way. And we'll talk a little bit about some other hunting things that's still going on. You got quail hunting going on, and you also got the rabbit season, and this is prime time if you're a rabbit hunter.
Well, and then it got the primitive weapons coming up too. So these guys that really loved it, but you tell me our good friend Topia, his girlfriend Ginger, she's recuperating. She got a big deal, huh?
She finally fulfilled her mission this season. She was working on a big boy, and she got him the last week of the season using a 35, a primitive weapon.
I hope Tofia's happy. Look, he always gives me a show. He called me the other day, made me feel good. I wear a shirt today. Thank you, To.
Looks good. Stay with us. You're watching Paradise, Louisiana.
Stay tuned for more Paradise Louisiana, voted Best of Louisiana Outdoors 3 years in a row.
Okay, Brett, safety and car insurance.
Never scored a safety. That's defense. But go on, please.
Yeah, defensive. That's exactly how you should drive.
There is no such thing as a defensive drive. Offense makes the drive.
Oh, I mean when you're on the road.
But it doesn't matter, home or away.
Okay, clearly I'm striking out here.
That's baseball.
Get great auto rates from Farm Bureau Insurance. Call your agent today.
Pause moving and storage.
We just sold our house.
Congratulations.
We have 2 weeks to move.
We'll deliver a few containers.
Our new home's not ready.
No problem. You can store things with us while you're between homes.
We might need help.
We'll refer trusted packers.
We'll be staying at my brother's.
Well, that sounds...
He has kids of his own.
Well...
5 of them.
Ma'am?
Help.
Trust us for local and long-distance moving and store at our storage centers. Pods, moving and storage, solved.
Welcome back to Paradise, Louisiana. We're at Superior Bait and Tackle on Segan Lane in Baton Rouge. Made a trip to Delacroix Island. This is considered winter time. Now, you know, we get some pretty days like we had this week. You kind of push it towards spring, but it is still winter time. And we decided to fish for some wintertime redfish. And that wasn't totally by choice. Speckled trout have been hard to find in a lot of areas because of the cold water temperatures that have been coming from these fronts. But redfish have remained active. There's a lot of places you can go and find redfish, and Delacroix Island is certainly one of them. Went with Captain Ron Broadus, goes by the name of Ahab. I had a good fellow with us named Brian Chauvin came along with the trip, and we kind of delayed the trip a little bit. It was one of those real chilly mornings. One decided to let the water warm up a little bit. We were on a deadline, but went into a big pond or a bay, and instead of going up like you normally fish redfish 8-10 feet from the grass, these fish were like 70 or 80 yards from the shoreline. Reason was, water was still very low at that time, and I mean, we were fishing probably in about 2 foot of water that far away from the bank. That's where the redfish were concentrated on. Nothing high tech, didn't require any brain surgery, popping cork, 18 inches, jig head, and dead market shrimp. That's all it took. The very first cast, cork kept going, brought that fish in, and from then on it was every cast. It was either you lost a fish or you caught a fish, but every cast you had a bite. These redfish, they're perfect size, maybe 3 throwbacks, 22 to 26 inch, those nice slot size redfish. We caught a 3-man limit in 30 minutes. And I asked Ahab about, you know, would you think they'd hit on plastic? He said they probably would, but why? When it's on like that, you're on a deadline, there's no sense changing what you're doing. And I believe that's going to continue for quite a while. And it's not just Delacroix, but it's a lot of places, and thank God for the redfish.
In the fishing report, we got some people saying the same thing, all of them, Dulac, whatever. They're fishing deeper holes. But like you said, in the moisture when the water's out there, deeper hole could be just 3 foot deep.
Oh, it could be a little further away from that bank. A lot of people refrain from fishing for redfish in the middle of a pond just because they're hardly ever there. Yeah. But when there's no water on the edges, that's what they're going to do. They're going to retreat to the other side.
You know, I learned a long time ago when I used to fish Montague, and everybody was talking about running the marsh in low water. They always tell you to look for the crab traps. The crab traps underneath is part of the buy, and they're floating. And as long as if you know the wind is blowing, you stay away from the side that the wind's blowing and leaving the trap there. But I guess that's a good way to fish when the water's low too. Also.
Well, Captain Ahab's going to give you some tips and some advice if you're headed down that way, or other areas that are similar in nature as far as the habitat, how to catch some wintertime redfish. It's a lot of fun.
This was incredible. I mean, 30 minutes, 3-man limit of redfish. What is going on out there?
They are stacked up in some places. We did some scouting yesterday and went to one of the nearby lakes and we caught 30 fish, but they were all 14 to 15.5 inches. And then I talked with my buddy Captain Nick, who told me he was on red, so that's where we went this morning. And lo and behold, brother, they were just on fire, one right after the other.
You made a comment, water temperature was 49 degrees. They were fighting like it was in the 70s. Any explanation for that?
Well, the redfish is a much hardier fish than a trout. And these are big reds, so they've got the muscle to thrash around as they were doing, although it does seem unusual, but the water was about 50 degrees today.
You mentioned there's places that are going to hold concentrations of redfish. There's going to be places without any redfish. What do you look for if you're coming out here to find those concentrations?
I fish the places that I normally fish for reds. You're not going to see bait like you would in the summer and in the fall. I like to fish out in front of some bayous because what we're experiencing now with this water being about 2.5 feet below normal is these redfish have come out of those shallow marshes and they're hanging out in those bays and lakes along the shorelines. So we caught all those we caught today in 1.5 to 2 feet of water.
Any special tackle technique you got to use to catch these fish?
We used dead shrimp this morning. We got some dead shrimp from Serenades, and I wanted to try some plastic baits to see how they would work, but we didn't have time. I mean, it was just, why stop what you're doing and try something when you're doing something that's doing so well?
I can get this one up. Here we go. Yes, it's a redfish frenzy.
What size redfish can people expect to catch if they come out here this time of the year?
Going to catch a lot of rat reds. The marsh is loaded with rat reds. Then they're going to catch everything from 18 inches to 30 inches.
Delacroix pretty much is a 12-month-a-year redfish spot. Why is that, do you think?
I just think it's the hydrology and the marsh that we have. We have some of the finest marsh of anywhere in South Louisiana. And I think that it's such that it just allows for these redfish to spawn and breed and come back up in the marsh and flourish. Because you're right, it's always been known as the redfish spot. Some guys that fish tournaments would come all the way from Mobile to Delacroix to catch their redfish.
How is this marsh changing? For the better, for the best, worse, or about the same?
I think it's about the same most of the year. What we're experiencing in the summer is with the Mardi Gras Pass being open, is Black Bay and Bay Gardine is filling up with fresh river water, and it's making catching trout extremely difficult. It's pushing our trout from Delacroix to Mississippi and Alabama and points beyond.
Tell me about the guy you brought fishing today. Pretty good fisherman?
Brian Chauvin, he's got a lot to learn, Brian and I have known each other a long time. He's a good fisherman. It's one of the reasons I invited him. I thought we might need a good fisherman to put some fish in the boat with us, and he proved it.
30 minutes, 3 limits, is that a record pretty much?
It's a pretty good record for me. I know that Captain Nick told me the other day he had their limit in a matter of had 15 reds in 12 minutes, and they kept catching and releasing, caught 71 in an hour. That's awesome. I mean, that's an awesome trip.
Here's how I guarantee my crawfish tastes great every time. I use Louisiana Fish Fry brand seafood boil. Why do the pros use Louisiana Fish Fry seafood boil?
Because the flavor is so good.
It has more garlic, onion, paprika, lemon, and not too much salt.
It has much better flavor.
Louisiana Fish Fry brand seafood boil. Find the yellow bag and pour and boil for great crawfish every time. Welcome back to Paradise, Louisiana. This is the time of the year when you hit February where a lot of people who don't hunt the smaller game species like rabbit, snipe, and squirrel, and maybe quail, and conservation for the geese, they start putting their gear away. They're cleaning it up, packing up the mud boats, cleaning up the shotgun, getting it away, putting the decoys up. They're pretty much done, and they're ready to start concentrating on either turkey season or fishing season.
Well, you know, with that fishing season to them, means they start pulling that boat out. They've been left up in there. So that's another. We're going to be bringing y'all more on how to check your boat out before the spring gets here, because there's so many tournaments and stuff going. But that last weekend, the Saturday was a big mess up. It was a ton of rain, bad thunder, storms. My brother and them slept in over there at Port Barry with my grandson. They had them tough ones. They went out there and fought it. But the birds were landing, wasn't that many people hunting, they were landing right out in the middle of the field. And they couldn't get them close enough. And they killed a few passing shots, but the big flights were there. They're hoping they're there this week, this Saturday, for the youth hunt. They're talking about making a youth hunt out. If things go all right, I might go out there and video it myself. But last year, I don't know if y'all remember, Blake had them kids there, and they were thousands and thousands of teals right there in Port Hudson. But you look all over, right now, Highway 71, Buckley and them didn't hunt again, but he made his annual trip to Texas. He was over there at what they call the Panhandle and Best, and his wife, Denise, and their friend, Lauren, and Settoon, Scotty Settoon. They were limited out on sandhill crane. You talking about fun to hunt. I hunted them in Canada one time with Ducks Unlimited. But here they are, Buckley and them, 2 or 3 days in a row, they line their limit up. It's 3 cranes per person, and they lined them up. He didn't think he was going to be able to get back. He had some business to take care of, and he had a wedding, but he told me Highway 71 that last weekend was doing pretty good. The people that wanted to fight the rain on the Saturday, I didn't get no report Sunday. Sunday we had a lot of crisis in the family, so I didn't get none from my brother and them. They closed over there in the West Zone, so I didn't get any other reports. I don't know if you did or not, from Ryan Lambert or any of them on the ducks. Now I got one, Gary Bankston sent me a report. He hunts Mud Rouge where I hunt a lot of times, and this year I didn't get to make but a couple, but Kobe and them, all the way to the end, they were killing a lot of ducks, a lot of geese. Now, I don't think Kobe does the conservation hunt, but Blake Swallow and them are going to be doing a few of them. So you got to call them. They're not going to do many, and you got to have at least 8 to 12 people, and he'll set it up and know when y'all come. So what about you, Don? Did you get it from Ryan at all?
Well, the duck season was closed last week in that zone. In the coastal zone, it was shut down.
I'm sorry, you're right. I forgot that.
Yeah. But now deer hunting this season, I think this was an above average deer season. We also got a lot of good photos in. I talked to a lot of people. This picture you're looking at right here is Ginger Janet, who works with Tofield Bourgeois down at Bourgeois Charters, and she is a die-hard deer hunter. She hunts with everything, the bow and arrow, modern weapons, and also with the primitive weapons. And this 14-pointer, she'd been stalking him for the whole season. Had pictures of him. Never really got a look at him in the daylight, and he finally decided to make a bad move, and she made the right move, so congratulations to her. And there's a lot of stories like that. It's late in the season, like last week, and the last weekend is where people sometimes finally get those deer that they've been hunting for a long, hard time all season long.
My rabbit hunting buddy, J.C. Messina, he sent me a picture. He texted. I said, I'm not going to do it to you. Email it to me, so I'll run it to y'all, make sure y'all later. But JC got back in the club, and he'd been running in rabbit dogs and chasing his daughter. She's a good softball player, and they play in a lot of these tournaments that start early. But JC sent me a picture, and I'll think I can rack it up and show y'all. Don, my Sac-A-Lait fishing buddy out of Pearl River, Tim McGee, he sent me a Pearl River buck. So he got that, and he also had to show me he also caught some Sac-A-Lait. So that's his version of Blast the Class. He catching some Sac-A-Lait off the Pearl River, and he also killed a deer. So congratulations to you. Keep in touch, Tim. If Sac-A-Lait turn on, you call me. I'm going to be there. You're not far from my camp. So that's what I got in my hunting report. It's sort of short.
All right, very good. When we come back, we'll get to the Berkeley Abu Garcia fishing report and also the news, the H&H Tournament Rodeo and News Report here on Paradise, Louisiana.
What you seeing?
Yeah, I see a flock of them over there. Come on, baby.
Chef Formato.
For the thirsty, for those who hang out in packs, for heroes, for sidekicks, for those who see the glass half empty, for those who see it half full, for those on the right, for those on the left, for those with nicknames, for those with curves, for people that cycle, for people that recycle, for BFFs, for frenemies, for those with style, for lovers, for families, for big families, for everyone.
Pause moving and storage.
We just sold our house.
Congratulations.
We have 2 weeks to move.
We'll deliver a few containers.
Our new home's not ready.
No problem. You can store things with us while you're between homes.
We might need help.
We'll refer trusted packers.
We'll be staying at my brother's.
Well, that sounds...
He has kids of his own.
Well...
5 of them.
Ma'am?
Help.
Trust us for local and long-distance moving and store at our storage centers. Pods, moving and storage, solved.
Okay, Brett, safety and car insurance.
Never scored a safety. That's defense. But go on, please.
Yeah, defensive. That's exactly how you should drive.
There is no such thing as a defensive drive. Offense makes the drive.
Oh, I mean when you're on the road.
But it doesn't matter, home or away.
Okay, clearly I'm striking out here.
That's baseball.
Get great auto rates from Farm Bureau Insurance. Call your agent today.
Welcome to the H&H Tournament Rodeo and News Event coverage. Starting off with some news, Gary, there's going to be some changes proposed in the fishing license sales by Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, and it's going to deal with some increases. I've got a chance to look at it. It has not made public yet. It's going to go before the legislature for final approval. There's some problems I have with it. Don't want to really get into it now, but I do want to make the viewers aware that it is coming out, and as soon as you see it, read it over really well, and if you've got an opinion on it, there's going to be a comment period, and before it's finally adopted and become law, you'll have a chance to have some decision over whether you are for it or against it. Another controversial issue arose, and this is the one with the chefs. They got some chefs along coastal Louisiana that are opposed to Garrett Graves' bills, which would change the management of the state fishery, take it more away from the feds, give it to the states, and the chefs obviously feel it's going to have a negative impact on the commercial and their restaurant business, and they have gone on record as being opposed to it. And I know you saw Mike Foster came out vocal against it too, against them being against it.
Some of the newspapers wrote an article. He said that was one of the big things that they'd run a red flag up, oh, we're going to lose this, when they had the netting with the redfish. And they were talking about this when we were losing all the stocks. And they said, no, if y'all gonna do that, we got to shut these restaurants down. It never happened. It never happened. Everything's been good and bad, but they didn't say nothing about it. Now, they wanna limit the stroke that the recreational fishermen have, but it ain't them. It's giving the regulations to the people that know what they're doing. People said, oh, you're gonna give all your power to the recreational fishermen or the commercial fishermen? No, it's giving it to the people that manage it and they know most about it. So if you disagree and you see one of them on that list, they sent out a list. If it's one of the restaurants you go to and you're a big recreational fisherman or a commercial fisherman, you go in there and tell them, say, hey, forget this, okay? You proved this wrong. I'm going to quit coming here. Put a little pressure on them. They're trying to put pressure on everybody else, and they're hollering wolf. That's the main thing.
All right, let's get to some rodeo and tournament stuff coming up. We got a few on the list.
Well, yeah, we got some pretty big banquets coming on and some big fundraisers. Louisiana Delta Waterfowl got their skeet shoot. It's coming up in February 17th at the GOI in Maurice, Louisiana. Then you got, the more news I got Lake Vistano. That drawdown they've been having, it controls a lot of stuff, but it was really drawn down for repairs. They had to keep it low. They kept the gates wide open. That is finished last month. So then we got something really unusual coming up right now. It's the second annual A&O, Anything Outdoors, second annual Chapala Frog Rodeo. It's going to be out of Dry Runs between March 10th and 11th. Go to their website, or you can just listen to us, and you'll read more about how they participate in that frog tournament. It's about the third or fourth one we covered before, you know, and it's fun. They go out at night and they come and do the weigh-in in the morning, so that's why they give it 2 days. They do one. They got another one that comes out of Jack Miller's too. That's a big one every year. So let me look what it's got. Oh, we got this coming weekend, and you got the bullseye and the badge, you know, archery tournaments and the shoot-offs with all the police department. It's coming up this weekend too. And there's so many stuff going on. You got banquets all over. Got the National Wild Turkey Federation. They got their banquet at LSU Mini-Borns. It's also Saturday. So down there, we got all them bass tournaments coming up. You know, we got the for Emerge Center coming up in March the 3rd, and then Trinity Outdoors is coming in next week, and Fishing for Tucker and them, all them are coming up, but we're going to run them on the screen one more time. So most of it is now. We had tournaments, excuse my voice, but we had tournaments. They might be approved, huh? This hoarse voice. Who I sound like?
You might be eligible to go in that frog contest. You kind of sound like a frog. Maybe, do they have frog calling?
It just came on this morning.
You could win the frog calling category.
You know, this past weekend at Toledo Bend, Bass had the college tournament.
Yep.
It's supposed to have been 2 or 3 days. It rained so hard, had bad weather Saturday, they didn't do anything. I think the high school tournament was Sunday, and they didn't send us a report, but it's on their website, and I think Chris is going to try to run some of the report on the screen for us. So congratulate them high school kids all over the state. It's growing the leaps and bounds everywhere I go. People are talking about me. They're telling us thank us for covering it. I see Joe still covers it a lot in the paper. And Don, you've been a big proponent of them.
Well, you know, there's for those up in the eastern part of the state, they're going to really expand high school fishing. Chad over at Dockside Marine, he's been a shaker and mover, and he's trying to get it going to where all the schools in that area have a team and they're represented, and they have tournaments and award prizes to them, and they kind of got it going over there too.
I heard the only thing they're worried about, they've been beating the seniors. The seniors are going to have a little more competition.
Yeah.
These young kids are something. So that's all I got, Don.
All right, good. We'll be back with more. You're watching Paradise, Louisiana from Superior Bait and Tackle, Siegen Lane in Baton Rouge.
Stay tuned for more Paradise, Louisiana. Voted Best of Louisiana Outdoors 3 years in a row.
Hey y'all, it's Sam Barbera. I'm with the Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries Foundation. The foundation is a nonprofit that raises funds and provides support for the Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries Department. We assist with numerous projects like black bear, whooping crane, bald eagle, as well as family, youth, and women's workshops. For all of the information on the foundation, visit lawff.org. We need your support to help our wildlife and fisheries. Visit lawff.org.
As Ask me about my Tempur-Pedic.
Ask me how fast I fall asleep.
Why not talk to someone who's sleeping on the most highly recommended bed in America?
Ask me about staying asleep.
Tempur-Pedic owners are more satisfied than owners of any traditional mattress brand.
Ask me how it feels after 10 years.
Tempur-Pedic, the most highly recommended bed in America.
Ask about Tempur-Pedic at Olin's, where you know you always get the guaranteed low price. Olin's is the only store in Baton Rouge and Lafayette with the full line of Tempur-Pedics.
The best part about being a member of a Touchstone Energy Cooperative is that it's your Touchstone Energy Cooperative. That's the power of your co-op membership.
Demco, your Touchstone Energy Cooperative.
On this episode of Dockside TV, we're catching big speckled trout in foggy conditions in an unlikely spot.
So stay tuned for this episode of Dockside TV.
I mean, look at the fog out here. Remember last year when we crushed them fish? Or that was like 2 or 3 years ago.
2 or 3 years ago.
When the birds were diving all over in the corner.
Awesome, awesome.
Way on the south end of the lake.
Got the same conditions, middle of December.
I mean, hopefully we can find our way to the south end of the lake and be using the GPS to go straight.
Let's see if we can make it happen.
Yeah. All right, what's been going on here? We're on the south end of the lake, like down Haynes Boulevard, in between the Trestle and Seabrook. And there's a big school of shrimp in this area. And the reason we know that is we've been running into the birds down here, diving on those big white shrimp. And when we can find the birds, it's some really big trout. Problem we got today is it's really foggy. You're gonna have a better chance hearing the birds than seeing them, unless we can get this fog to lift. But where we found some fish here recently is on whatever structures we can find down the shoreline, which isn't much. It's pretty much a plain, you know, empty shoreline all the way to Seabrook. We got some pilings right here that we caught some real big fish on yesterday. So, let's see if we can get some more. Look at his flash. Beautiful trout right here. The size of the fish that we catch in the Lake Pontchartrain in the wintertime. This is just an average size. Whoop. Good 2.5 chunk. So let's get back in here and get some more. Look at it. Nice. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Head shaking. Head shake. Alright, so look, I just landed this fish kind of where the boat's drifting back to where the fish are at. When you're fishing these big trout like this, the last thing you want to do is let the boat push up on them. These fish are very finicky. It's not that terribly deep where we're at, so you want to make long casts. Well, you can get these big girls like this right here. Missed it. big ones, these big yellowmouths. They come up and they try to throw that matrix shad, get it out their mouth. They don't like that. I'm using that tiger bait this morning, and that really worked good yesterday too. I don't know if it's because how cloudy and foggy it is, they can see that contrast real well, but them big girls are definitely wanting it. Let me get this one in the well and I'll show you what we're fishing and just how we're working it here. So we got this group of little pilings right here holding barnacles, little crustaceans on it. And there's not a ton of fish here, but the ones we're catching are really, really nice. And we even, we had one of our biggest ones yesterday. Caught one about 5 pounds. This is one of our biggest fish of the year, came off of here. What you always want to do when you're fishing big trout, especially if they choke it down, is check that last 6 inches of line. Always rub on that, make sure it's good, as if not, you're gonna want to retie. And I'm just throwing up to that. These pilings are about 7 foot deep, a little bit shallower than fishing the bridges. And I'm just popping it real hard. That way I'm jumping over the little nub pilings that you can't see under the water. If you just drag it, you have a better chance of snagging one of them pilings. And when you snag it, I mean, fishing these big trout like this in a secluded area, it's almost like crappie fishing. If you get snagged, and you got to pop the line or whatever, you're going to disturb those fish in that little area. You want to be really, really, really quiet and very stealthy. Not getting a lot of bites in here, but we're not fishing for a lot of bites today. We're fishing for a big one. The ones we got so far, really nice, but we hadn't caught no monsters yet. I'd love to shake that head. Let's control them. What these fish are doing is they got different little groups of pilings, and once we find them ganged up on one pole, there's multiple fish on one pile. And look at that, beautiful. Look how clean that water is. Oh yeah, just solid chunks. Most of these look like female trout, and they're just chunky, healthy fish. Haven't bumped into any monsters yet, but we will take a dozen of these any day of the week. Like I was saying, is once we figure out what angle, look at these pilings here, what angle we need to present that cast, what side of the pilings that they're hanging out on. You know, they're not just on all 4 corners. You're gonna find that one little corner, that one little piling, and they're schooling up on there. It's a beautiful, healthy fish right here.
Came back for it. Caught me slipping the first time. Dropped the rod tip back down, moved it a little bit, and he jumped on it. Tell y'all a secret. Chaz was beating me earlier. He was using a different kind of bait than I was. He didn't want to tell me. You always pay attention to who's catching the most fish and what they're using. A little 2-pounder. One thing, you know, another thing, you know, kind of same thing, you know, Chaz was talking about earlier. We're fishing the south end of the lake. You know, this time it's mid-November. I mean, actually mid-December. I apologize. And we're fishing in the lake. What generally will happen is a lot of the big white shrimp will get trapped on the south end of the lake.
Fish on.
Water's beautiful right now. And what'll happen is the white shrimp will get jammed in here. So when the white shrimp get jammed up in this area, you know, a lot of these big trout, big beautiful trout will kind of hang out around in this area. So it's another big fine trout. And like I said, we're not catching numbers. We're not looking for numbers. We're looking for size, quality over quantity.
They're choking that tiger bait down. That's been the bait of choice this week. It's really been out producing the other ones, and they are eating it up. But yeah, we're looking for this one's grandmother here.
Yeah.
This is a solid 17 incher. He's probably got a 18, 19 incher. These are beautiful fish, but we're looking for one just a little bit bigger. When we're fishing in the wintertime like this, you know, speckled trout fishermen kind of get it in their head that December, January, you want to crawl the bait, you know, like a worm or whatever, because the water's cold. That's definitely not always the case. Now, do we crawl it? Sure, sometimes, but what's up? Come on.
Not today.
Come to daddy.
Come on, daddy, you big fatty.
This one's built like Chris.
Look at that tank, son. Holy cow, yeah. Holy cow. So this is a big, beautiful trout. We're gonna tag and release him, but I wanna say a couple of things before, you know, we get him back in the water. I mean, this is a beautiful fish, you know, 5-pounder, good, thick, solid fish. He has a lot of scarring on him. Now, that could be from a couple of things, almost like he might have been in a net or something, or it could be rubbing up against the pilings, just scraping the pilings or whatnot, but this is a beautiful, beautiful. He is built like me. Big fatty.
All right, we got tag number 16751. I'm gonna pop it in this big mule Chris just caught. We've been trying to be gentle with them. When we're releasing these big girls, we like to just use the boga grip. Call that number on that tag. Chris is gonna release it, show them swim away. We released another real big one over here yesterday. So we got two right at 5 pounds swimming around with matrix hair tags. Look how healthy that fish was. And that's the key, be gentle to them if you're gonna tag them. You know, you see us take pictures a lot of times with our hands in their gills. And you know, the way we hold them and all, we only do that if we're gonna keep the fish. But if you're gonna release a fish and you wanna get pictures, that's fine. Make sure you got one of them clamps or a boga grip, something like that. That way it'll hold, you don't have to put no pressure on his gills. You don't wanna ruin their gills. And then you pop a little tag in them and let them go, or even if you're not gonna tag them. You know, that's Chris and I used to catch fish of that caliber. Man, I've had days of 5, 6 of those in a day. Catching 7, 8, 9 pounders used to be relatively common. Nowadays, a 5-pounder is a big one. I mean, that's like a monster now. So we're just trying to let some of them big girls go. I'm not saying that that's the answer, but it certainly can help. I know you got a much better chance of catching that fish at 8 pounds than you do if he's in our ice chest.
Yeah,
so.
You got that right.
Anyway, let's see if we can get a 8-pounder. It's a good one here. Right in that danger zone. Throwing all up in tight to them poles. I got a pulley. Oh, does he have me wrapped? Trying to horse him out them pilings. This fish could be real good. Where's the net at?
Go ahead, I got it. It's real.
Guess I got him fouled.
Oh.
This might be the one, girls.
That is a tank.
This is the one. This is the one we're looking for. Oh boy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a top 5, top 10 trout for old Dockside TV right there. One of the bigger ones we've ever caught while shooting an episode. We're gonna go ahead and close it out right here on this fish. It's gonna be hard to get any better than that. That is a beautiful, beautiful trout. Solid, probably 4.5 pounder. They don't get much better than this. So, what you want to tell them, Chris?
For all future episodes and anything up to date that's happening in and around the lake, make sure you visit DocksideTV.com. And just remember, if you haven't seen it here first, you saw it somewhere else last. Catch a few more fish, man. That's a solid.
MatrixShed.com, signing out. Dockside TV. Make sure to stay up to date with all of our Dockside TV episodes. Simply hit the subscribe button right here on your YouTube channel. Stay up to date with all of the action going on around the surrounding areas as we catch multiple species of fish, from trout to bass to redfish, flounder, and even crappie. Make sure to hit the post notification button also, which will allow you to know when our next and freshest Dockside TV episodes are uploaded.
Aggressive, modern, and durable. The latest advancement in spinning has the Revo name on it, and almost a century of fishing expertise in it. No matter where your passion takes you, world-class fishing is only a Revo away.
Welcome to the Berkeley Abu Garcia Fishing Report. I wish we could say we're going to start off with offshore, but there were no reports that I got with any offshore fishing, and that is a shame because this is the time of the year when that lump in some of those areas, the east lump and also the regular lump off the mouth of the river really turn on. But unfortunately, the boats can't get out there on a regular basis, and the ones that did on those few occasions really didn't find a lot of tuna in wahoo, but you can bet they'll be coming. So with that in mind, saltwater fishing, redfish is #1. And I think it's worth talking about that everybody was afraid about fish kills. We had some serious low temperatures for extended periods of time. Normally that results in fish kills for saltwater areas. It really didn't happen. There was a pretty extensive redfish kill over by Calcasieu. There was a mullet kill over on the coast off of Biloxi in Mississippi. But in between those areas, the trout did very well. They survived. I didn't get any reports of floating trout or redfish. So all in all, I think the fish came through the hard winter, and hopefully we won't get any more temperatures that low. But what has happened is it has kind of shut the trout fishing down. It's very difficult to go out and find and catch any amount of trout right now, but redfish is just the opposite. Redfish, you saw what we did in Delacroix, 3-man limit in 30 minutes, and that's not the only place. Shell Beach, Venice, Lafitte, you go down to Dularge, Dulac, all of those places down there, you're going to be able to pick up a lot of redfish.
Yeah, in a lot of places, they catch them off the bank, so that's really good. You don't have to, wind has been rough. That's another thing, making speckled trout a little bit harder. I got friends of mine, they got to cross the lakes where they heard there was some fish. They would try to go to the Mystico and everything, and they saw that video with Chaz and them and catching those fish, and they tried to duplicate it, but they moved. If that tide don't be coming through the locks, you know, it's a whole difference. It's all, that's why the tidal water, coastal water, is controlled by the tide. The same thing with us with bass. Now, Delacroix, they're back catching those bass, and people were catching them all day long, and y'all caught them. Then I know in another place, they were catching them in Big Lake, all them places off of Big Lake, Vermilion Bay, but some of the people couldn't get in their boat. I mean, at the landing, the boat was sitting on the mud. It done blew all the water out. So it's coming back in. They had a south wind. People are catching a few of the fish. The coastal reports, I got actual pictures. Lauren Shields was fishing with a Daddy Brad. They're in the Mother Grove area. Speckled trout, few, redfish everywhere. And she holding up the redfish, and she's holding that fish up really close. Pretty girl, pretty fish. I really enjoyed that. Y'all send us more. Keep in touch. John Bernard and Gary Malonson and Dulac. It's another area here in the same thing. Historically, this is the time redfish are stacked. Everywhere we're going. Leeville got the same report. Off the bank, Highway 1 still is doing. The colder it is, the better it is. So on anything else I got. Now, I got some freshwater reports, by the way. Lake Pinching, you've been hearing about the run on the red ear, or the chinkapin, shell crackers, whatever you want to call them, lake runners. It's still going on, but the Sac-A-Lait run is on. Also, they're fishing all up in their areas, and the catfish run is on. In the Bayou Pinching, that Reed Wagons pack here, using duck gates, tight lining on a casting rod. Here he is, right here. Look at the size of this catfish. Congratulations to you, Reed. Let me tell you about duck gut, them duck gizzards. My buddy, Jody Rousseau, his birthday was last month. I remember him every year when it comes to hunting season and fishing season. He had his camp down there. When we go duck hunting, he come back, we clean the ducks. He take those duck guts and the gizzards and everything, and we take those bottles and them floats. Listen, yeah, there's people using them daggone, they got different names for them now. They call them noodle. I got some fish from Toledo Bend, Bell River. The catfish have been caught noodling on these noodles. I'm supposed to make a fishing trip too with Mark Cartwright. He also puts out a type of noodle or different. And he's been saying we're gonna get together, but he's been real busy moving his business around. He's got the mitt, so he's been promising me. So probably in the next month, you're gonna see us making a trip with Mark Cartwright. Again, one more time, Pearl River, Sac-A-Lait, Tim McGee, Toledo Bend, Chartreuse, and Licorice with a pink head. Clinton, Ogle, Gimmerich, 14-foot depth, beautiful Sac-A-Lait. Not a lot of numbers, but they running everywhere from £1.25 to £1.5. Beautiful. And then once again, catfish everywhere. In the spillway, around Lake Barrett, they're catching catfish right now, using all kind of baits. But on them noodles, them kids know what they were using, and they had to put a name too. Brian Wieners, cutting them wieners up and putting them on there, putting them on them noodles and catching. So, and that's over there with the Mahi girls. Grace Alford and Addison Mahi. Don't forget Brian Wieners. I bet I can use any kind of, huh? Oscar Mayer, whatever, huh?
I don't know, you were talking about salami and bologna a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, but you thought I said salami. I said
I know you said no.
No, I said salami.
Pull the tape, Chris. See who's right.
I just can go to the last minute. They fishing live shrimp in a tsunami, slow rolling salami, caminada, and the barges. Slow rolling salami, caminada, and the barges. That's
all right,
it.
Before we move on, I just want to make one comment. You know, on my saltwater radio reports with Captain Mike Gallo this week, it's actually bass are becoming so prevalent in some areas that were strictly brackish and saltwater fish for trout and redfish that it's almost part of the trip. I mean, it's not hard to catch a lot of bass and adds to your catch. A lot of people are happy to keep 10 bass and they don't have to fish them like the pros do with, you know, a fancy boat and a trolling motor and all kind of array of baits and tackle. They're catching them just like you would normally catch them, on shrimp with the redfish and the trout.
My preference, eating, sac-a-lait, like everybody up there. Bass to me is better than a speckled trout. I love a bass, especially when they're cut small and they're fried. And then on a sad note, it reminded me, I was telling you, I was close to the family that drowned, and it's one of the hardest things you can get over, especially for the personal families. But for all the people out there that have lost family in the water, in a boating accident, drowning in a deer stand, killed by accidents. Some of them are avoidable, some of them are not. Hey, my prayers go out to you right now, because every time something like this happens, it brings it back up. And let me tell you what, it's close to home right now, but never close when 3 in one family is drowned.
Terrible tragedy. All right, we'll be back next week with more of Paradise, Louisiana.
Paradise, Louisiana is presented by Farm Bureau Insurance. Demco, your touchstone energy cooperative. Pods, moving and storage solved. Baton Rouge Coca-Cola Bottling Company. Benny's Car Wash and Oil Change. Louisiana Fish Fry Products. And by CCA Louisiana and the CCA Louisiana Star Tournament.